Please, yeah, please tell me. But other than that, yeah, hold on, let me set up my timer. Pronouncing him, starting my speech in three, two, one. I'm going to talk about two things in my speech. First, I'm gonna talk about how the society works. But second, I'm gonna talk about how this motion will be beneficial for the company in the long run. But before moving to my argument, three setup, right? First, talking about job hopping. What is job hopping? They are the phenomena of employee changing job within a relatively short period. This looks like when you just like enter your company for like 3 years or maybe 2 years, but you just you hop to the another company at and yeah, yada, right? But B, the job hopping is usually done by fresh graduate, or they usually done by newcomers to the industry. It is very unlikely for the opposition to say that the higher ups, that middle management will opt in and opt out of a company and change and hopping their job, right? But see, what are the motivation people do job hopping in the first place? There are three motivation for the incentive for them to do job hopping. First is they believe that their salary isn't competitive. They believe that there is a so much opportunities for them to like enhance their salary, enhance their position and whatnot, right? But second, it's about passion. Because of over time as a human being, you are dynamic, right? So yeah, over time it is very likely to you to like rediscover yourself and rediscover your passion at the end of the day choose to like hoping to another company because your passion isn't just in this company, right? But third, then it's also being done because there's a toxic working environment in your company because you don't see like this is healthy for you, this is will be beneficial for you in the long run. But second, then how does stigma against job hopping looks like? It being looks like when you're being looked down upon from the society, from your fellow worker. They are encourage you. It looks like when you are interviewing with your HR and they see that you have like only 2 years of experience in your previous company, they will be highlight you as a red flag or like strike out reviews in the first place, right? But B, it also looks like when you're being forced and pressurized to stay within the same company over a long of period of time. This is looks like in the industry of Japan, where like job hopping is literally very and job hopping and job quitting is literally very hard to do. But three, then, what are our stances? A, we believe that stigma against job hopping should be eradicate. We will, but we won't encourage job hopping. We simply believe that everyone have the same opportunity to choose whether they want to hopping or not. But B, we will still respect the people that want to stay with an employer for a very long time for like their personal reason. But moving to my first argument, then talking about how the society works. First, notice how the society works. It's very competitive. This is true because at the end of the day, the resources are keep getting scarce and human keep getting like exponential in growth. But and at the end of the day, opt into very capitalistic nature. That and then as a human being that live in a very capitalistic nature, you want to be the best, right? This is only logical because notice life is a competition. As a human, you always feel like you are being best university, you are striving to the best major, and at the end of the day, you are striving to work at the best place, at the best place. This is mean that it is only logical for you to at the end of the day try to find what's best for you and settle what best for you. This is logical with the job hopping trends in the industry. But B, then notice that the current trend of the industry favor dynamism. They favor the interdisciplinary, how you don't like only have like one single experience within a certain field, but also multiple experience at the end of the day, right? Notice that you as a human being that work 9 to 5, you only to get your youth or your young era once. And this is notice that this is important because when you are young, you are like have like so much less risk to do, and you are more free to do what you want. You are more free to like uh to to chase some risk thing at the end of the day, right? But why then is it like likely for you to like at the end of the why is it likely for the society itself to be supporting the job hopping? Notice that three reasons of the job hopping: toxic working environment, competitive salary, and passion is the sol is like the incentive reason for you in the capitalistic society to see what's best for you. But notice why this is important, because you only live your life once, and you only get your want once. So logically you should like make it as good as you can, like and opt in for the best choice possible at the end of the day, right? But B, because with this you could like end up with better society, better situation than in your previous company. Notice that this is good because like at the end of the day, work what make you stay afloat, work what that make you pay the bill, and at the end of the day, it like much more likely to um menentukan your like how you're gonna pension at the end of the day, right? But see that this is good because because at the end of the day you will be motivated to have more salaries and safer environment, and at the end of the day this will motivate you to do your best in the company, so you will have the good name in the company itself and upgrading your skill so you can opt out to the next better company. But talking about second argument, why this is will be beneficial for the company itself. Notice how you run company. There's two things. First, you do a business, but second, you get people in how to manage the business itself. Notice what's the different what's the difference in the like job hopping. They are not notice that they are like most likely still fresh than, and that's mean they're more likely to respect the rules and the culture of the company itself. Why this is likely? Because like you are literally the newcomer itself. You don't want to get on the bad side of the people at the end of the day, right? So they won't exploit the loopholes of your company and will result in a greater productivity at the end of the day. Notice that this is important because as a company, you need to stay afloat in the competition itself. But B, the one that usually job hopping are the battle hardened ones. They are literally job hopping because they see that this is a risk for taking for me to just get to resigning for my current job and seeking for a better job itself. Then and it is very likely with this phenomenon, with this trend, you will get much better amount of people that applying for your job at the end of the day, right? But see, notice that what will happen to the to the other side of the at the end of the day, right? There will be toxic workplace because notice people will be enabling it as because simply like the culture is very hard to change, and at the end of the day, even if you want to change, you must spend a lot get a great amount of HR power, HR money to work the culture around. But because of the job hopping culture, the culture become more dynamistic. You are most likely to get what the positive thing of the day. But B, it will erase seniority at the end of the day, right? And uh, proud to propose. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the fine speech coming from first up. To open negative case, I welcome first negative.
Am I audible?
You're audible.
Wait, ini. Okay, sorry. Say. I'm so sorry, please wait a minute. Okay. All right, then I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. As we all know that in the world status quo, there's a trend of job hopping in Gen Z. This job hopping means that someone keeps on changing their job a lot of times after working only for around 2 to 4 months. This trend of hopping has a stigma that people that do job hopping are not loyal to their company. These people might choose to change their job on purpose because because of work environment, workload, salary, mental health, etc. But by having the stigma towards people who do job hopping, we believe that there will be two actors that will be impacted by this. Firstly, the company. as we all know that every employee in a company have their own tasks. They have their own workload. When an employee chose to like uh just stop working because they feel like, oh, to do their work. So other employee that are working together with this employee that stopped working and then need to do the workload that the employee have, and then the company, the HR and management need to find other employee to do their jobs at the very first place again, and then this take a lot of times. And this take a lot of time to find other employee to work because there will be like a step to them, for example, like interview, document check, etc. Which is why now company check the employee record and rather hire those who are loyal to a company, not to just do job hopping. This is why there's a stigma between people that do job hopping. Secondly, the second actors is the employee. There will be three-step analysis, which is firstly, when they want to apply for the job, secondly, when they start to work in the company, and thirdly, when they start to consider to change job. That I will explain later in my argument. I have a point of rebuttal to the opponent team. The opponent team say that one of the motive of people to do job hopping is because of passion. Okay, these people that do job hopping means that they move jobs after only 3 to 4 months. If they want to work in a job that are fit with their passion, then they should have go for jobs that are fit with their patient at the very first place. So at the very first job that they're gonna choose, they should have chosen it at the very first place. Because what's the point of like working in the company for like 3 to 4 months and then just change it because you feel like this doesn't fit their patient? If they at the very first place their priority is their patient, they should have chose it at the very first place. They should choose a job that fit with their patient at the very first place, because just by working in a company for like 3 to 4 months doesn't help your CV or like your record at all. And then if they want to find that job that fit their patient, they could have just changed their job 1 or 2 times. Doesn't need to like keep on changing. There's no point of doing that. After doing like a more long time job, for example, like they did it like for 1 year or like at least 7-8 months. So it makes sense even more because now they got the experience. Now the company sees that, oh, they have experience 7 to 8 months in this company. So it more makes sense rather than just like moving job after like 3 to 4 months. And then, for example, like let's make an analogy. For example, this guy, there's this A. At first they're working in a job that doesn't fit with their patient, and then they chose to move to a job that fit their patients and then work there for like 3 months, and then they change again because they feels like, oh, and then they change again because to another job that fit their patient again. There's no point of doing that because like they're working on the second job for like 3 months where they should have adapt at the first place. For example, like they want to do that because of like work environment. There's no point of doing that. They should have just that fit their patient again. If we want to do that in like the opponent team world where they say that people can change job because of patient, they should have just like changed it one time. There's no point of like changing like 5, 6, 7 times. Let's move on. As a prime minister of the Mathematical House, I have 2 points of quotation that I'm going to talk about, which is first point, why is it justifiable for us to support this motion? And second point, why is it effective for us to support this motion? Let's move on to my first point of quotation, which is why is it justifiable for us to support this motion? This is justifiable for us to support this motion because we can decrease the number of people that do job hopping. On our side of the house, people can still do job hopping, but now they are less likely to do so. Why? Because with the stigma, they will firstly, when they want to apply for the job, they will really search about the job first. They will search about the salary, the work environment, or like what other thing that they consider, for example, like patient and for first place. So they already know what kind of job do they want. They already chose the best jobs that will make sure that they will work there for a long time, not to just like work there for like 2 months and then change again. This also a rebut for the opponent team that say that these people that do job hopping have other motive like salary, work environment, etc. Because at the first place they're gonna search about it, so they will be less likely to do so. Secondly, when they start to work in the company, they will actually try to adapt with the work life and try to solve the problem that they have. For example, like they have like a problem between like employees. Therefore, they will try to adapt. They they will try to search for the problem. They will try to solve for the problem. For example, like the problem is what they do before, so they're gonna like try to solve the problem. And at the end, even so, they ended up changing job. They will not have the same problem again, rather than just like just left the problem unsolved and then change job, which will cause them to will get the same problem again and again at the new workplace. So there's no point of them to even change job. Thirdly, when they start to consider to move job, they will now retain to move job because of the stigma. When they feels like, oh, I want to move job because this doesn't fit my patient. Now, before they move job, they will think about the stigma. Oh, but if I move job, so it will be harder for me to get hired because now company doesn't like people that doing job hopping. So because company will feels like they are not loyal and harder to get hired. So now these people will rating again. For example, like PNS. No, I'm sorry. For example, like for the when for that for example like when for example like when they was okay when they want to like apply for the job, for example like PNS. Nowadays PNS in Indonesia, they just apply for the job, they just apply to be PNS, but they doesn't realize that the government can relocate them wherever the government want, wherever the place government need them to work on. So these people are just like effort out there, they don't want to take the change. So the other people that actually need the job to get it. Let's move on to the second part of contention, which is why is it effective for us to support this motion, which is because the opponent teams of the house, the opponent team side of the house are supporting weak mentality towards the Gen Z. If we support the opponent team side of the house, the number of people that did job hopping will be higher. Why? Because the opponent team side of the house support these people that, for example, like they have like someone say bad things about them, they can just like laugh it. They feels like, oh my god, my mentality get hurt. I'm gonna move job because these people doesn't fit with me. Extra, like, oh, this doesn't fit with my patient. My mentality will get harmed. I should have just moved. This opponent team are supporting these people that will get weaker and weaker mentality. These people would rather move job once if they didn't like something rather than trying to adapt on the opponent team side of the house. They will never be better because they never try to start what is the problem and hoping other people to change and never try to improve the problem, never improve themselves. And with that, I'm proud to proposing you. And I'm proud to opposing you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the final speech coming from first negative. To continue the debate, I welcome second affirmative.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, give me 1 second to set my timer real quick. Okay. I pronouns they them. I will begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. So you see, as an employer, I would want to create a job environment that is very comfortable for people that at least they can enjoy their work, or they don't feel like they're in danger when they're at work. In this capitalistic world, we see how fresh graduates, even university students, are immediately expected and trusted into the job world, where their minds are still impulsive and they haven't even figured out what they actually want to do in life. So they just join any company that will hire them, and down the line they realize, oh, this is not what I want. We should have the right to resign and look for a job that suits them and fulfills their needs and rights. This won't happen with the stigma because people are afraid that they'd be seen as lazy for avoiding certain workloads, or they have no commitment. Okay, boomers are always saying, panels notice this in the status quo. Boomers are always saying that Gen Zs are bad workers because they keep changing jobs and aren't committed to their company. This is the proof of the stigma that is about job hopping. Gen Z realize that Gen Z is far more aware of their rights as workers, and they don't want to be abused in their workplace. So they stand up against these bad work environments. By moving jobs and finding the job that actually has a healthy work environment. But because of the stigma, they are viewed as bad workers. Oh, they have no commitment. Oh, they are lazy. Negative has this boomer mentality that I just explained that normalizes compared to trying to encourage the employers and work environments to improve to be better for their employees. I will explain this further later into my debate. Okay, a few things that I'd want. Okay, so first of all, I'd like to emphasize that we're not pushing everyone to do job hopping, as my first speaker said, but we don't want people to be afraid to switching jobs because of the stigma surrounding it. We want people to be able to find the job that fits their passion, is comfortable for them, that doesn't make them feel in danger whenever they're in the workplace. Okay, a few things I want to point out from the opponents' arguments. First of all, they said people will immediately, if you want to like find a work that fits your passion, you should just find a work that immediately fits your passion in the first place. First of all, how can you assume that everyone will immediately know what their passion is or know what they want in life in the moment they graduate and they have to find a job? Some people are still confused, especially when they are so young, graduating like at the age of 22, when like your brain hasn't even fully developed yet. So this narrative that the negative is bringing is completely unrealistic, and they're only playing with our worst case scenarios. People job hop because work environments are horrible, as we explained before. We just want people to find safety in doing something, in doing the thing that they have to do in order to survive in this capitalistic world. And finding passion takes a long time. Sometimes you might take like 5 years, even 10 years to find what is actually your passion. And not everyone can immediately get the work that fits their passion for the first time. Some are just like finding the work that can help them make money in order to feed them first before they can actually find a job that works, that can actually fulfill their passions. Okay, and then they said like companies that will, and then second of all, they said that companies need to find, if an employee keeps leaving, then companies need to keep finding more employees to do their jobs. We don't understand why this is a huge issue, because it's literally the company's job to hire people and find people who want to work with them. Like even if it's bad, like at a bad rate, it isn't worse. It's going to be worse if you just keep an employee with poor performance, which I will elaborate further later. And then last of all, they said that it will be like people won't get hired because of the stigma, because they're job hopping, and like they will be afraid to leave their jobs because they won't be able to get a job. This is exactly what we're trying to put. This is exactly our point. This is what we want to protect. People are afraid to leave their bad environment because of the stigma that surrounds job hopping. So we don't understand why negative wants to protect this kind of things. Okay, so moving on. What is the worst case scenario on our side of the debate? So there's going to be the assumption that these employees have a lack of commitment. First of all, as an employee, you don't have the obligation to be quote unquote loyal towards your company. You work solely for making a living, especially in this capitalistic world. And issues about like commitment are not significant when you're just trying to get enough money to eat that day. So like so all these narratives about like, oh, this person is a bad worker because they're not loyal and so on. We don't understand why. I'm just a worker trying to make trying to find money to eat for the. Okay, even if like there's this issue about lack of commitment, what's the point of high commitment if the employee has poor performance? They quote unquote commit because the stigma of job hopping comes from the narrative that employees should be loyal. They are afraid of being stigmatized as bad workers if they resign, even when they're experiencing a toxic work environment. So at least the fear of that stigmatization isn't on our side. So we move jobs until we find an environment that is safe for us. Okay, moving on to my extensions. First of all, what is the benefits of letting job hopping happen for the employer? First of all, they will get employees with higher performance, because let's say the longer a person is stuck with their job and they don't enjoy and then they don't enjoy their work, they didn't enjoy the work, the worse the job performance gets. So wouldn't it be better for you to have fresh employees with strong work ethics who would probably, I don't know, maybe eventually resign when they feel like they don't enjoy the work, or they feel like the work environment isn't for them? So rather than employees who stay with the company for a long time because they're afraid of finding a new job that suits them but doesn't enjoy their work, like why would you want to keep people who like only do who don't even like do the best in the job and doesn't actually boost your company? Okay, I would like to emphasize that not all employees will resign after like a few months, which also doesn't make sense from the negative teams, like because like when you're saying a person only works for like 2 to 3 months, that's an internship. Like people who are job hopping, they at least like work for at least a year or two in their companies before they realize, oh, this doesn't actually suit me. So like I want to emphasize, not all these workers will resign, but at least the people who stay in their job are the ones who genuinely enjoy the work that they do. They actually want to do their job because they actually feel comfortable doing their job. They actually enjoy doing it. And this helps you collect all the best workers who enjoy the job and they are passionate in their job, compared to this like having any employee that applies to your company but they don't actually enjoy the job that they're doing. Okay, second of all, it's going to be a check and balance from the internals of the company, because like if you see a lot of employees resigning, then you're going to realize, oh, that's actually a problem. It can be something used for the evaluation of the company, and the evaluation of company, like, oh, there's actually very toxic seniors, or like there's not a unhealthy work environment, and that can be reviewed, and that can be fixed, because there is no stigma of job hopping, and therefore people move jobs immediately they feel like the environment they're in is hostile. This cannot happen with negative, because everyone is afraid of resigning, so they stay with their current employer no matter how bad the work environment gets. Okay, so what's the benefit for employees? You get the opportunity to find passion and experience. Okay, so you only start working these jobs the moment you graduated, but when you realize that job doesn't fully suit you, then like you'd want to go and find another job, right? And you're still in this growing and developing process where you just enter the real world, and you can't immediately have a grasp of what you want to do in life, and you can't immediately have a lot of, and you cannot immediately like have all that experience needed to work solely from working in one place. So job different workplaces, not just skill, but also understanding of what kind of work, the different kind of work environments that exist. It's likely for you to grow your experience because of the different environments and workloads. You have more experience and skills because you are trying different things, and you are learning more new things about yourself and the job board. And like if negative worries about like having to start from square one whenever we have to start a new job, that's what happens, because like because of the lack of stigma, because you're job hopping, you have work different types of jobs, and you've like have different experience that can help you boost your resume. That's why we believe that it's we shouldn't be stigmatizing job hopping. Proud to propose.
Okay, yeah. So sorry for the disconnect tadi kepotong di ujung. But yeah, thank you so much for the fine speech coming from first negative, second affirmative. To continue the debate, I welcome second negative.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, I'm gonna start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Freedom is nice, but at what point does freedom is frowned upon? It is when freedom breaches your other people's right, but it also harms yourself as well. Several rebuttals toward affirmative. I'm going to really explain why do people want to change job in the first place, because the trend that is existing towards Gen Z, especially with job hopping, is really different, right? The reason why it is actually happening a lot of the time, because it is actually a trend, right? A lot of the time, these people really want to change their job because they see it as a new environment that they cannot really adapt to. But is it really something that they cannot inherently adapt to, or is it something that they just don't want to adapt to because either they see it as a big efforts, or they just want to go into their safe zone, right? We already tell you the point about passion and etc. And I'm going to explain later why then the development of passion, the development of careers is going to be better under negative side of the house, right? They said about toxic environment and how it is going to be better under opposition under government side of the house. But actually, toxic environment is actually going to be eradicated towards negative side of the house. Why? Because therefore you're staying in your jobs with a lot of other people who are not necessarily are pleased with that company in the first place. What is going to happen is that people will unionize, right? They're going to create communities. They're going to create people who are also not pleased with their job to gather up together, to band together, to go into the management and change the policy, right? That is going to happen under our side of the house. What is going to happen under your side of the house is that people are just not going to care about other people as well. They're not going to care, oh, there are other people who are suffering the same harms as me in this job. You're not going to care about that. You're going to resign and then move on, right? So development happens more under our side of the house, not only towards yourself, but also towards the company as well, right? But then secondly, they said about uh, uh, they they want to feed into the competitive nature, and that they want to challenge themselves, they want to go into a better company and stuff like that. But realize, then why do people want to have a job in the first place? A lot of people want a job in the first place because they want to feed their family, because they're suffering, because they don't necessarily have the money to be able to live, right? So for you to feed into your ego, to feed into your competitiveness, to then try to change job when the job market is already scarce in the first place, we don't think why this is actually an important issue under affirmative side of the house, because people need job. Therefore, you shouldn't job up in the first place, right? That's what the stigma is here. The stigma is here to check and balance your own your own brain, to think that, oh, even if I do have a competitive nature that I want to feed, I still have to feed my own family first. I have to still feed my own body first, right? So this is actually not really that good under affirmative side of the house, right? But then they said that uh they said that you don't have the obligation to be loyal and committed to a company. And I don't think why this is true, right? Because you literally have the obligation, or at least it is just moral for you to be loyal and committed to a company. Why? Because that company accepts you in a place where you need something, in a place where you need food, in a place where you need money to be able to feed your family, to be able to make your kids go to school so that they could live for themselves as well. These company comes to you and then accept you and give you the money that you need. So this is actually a very basic principle of saying that you need to be grateful. So grateful exists under negative side of the house, while affirmative is just going to blame game and then have a quitters mentality, right? But then they also said that in their side of the house, there's going to be a higher performance of workers because of different skills of job, and then people who are actually into that job is going to be the person that is going to be actually good within that job. But we don't necessarily find what is the correlation of job hopping and higher performance of workers, because when the trend is to job hop in the first place, what is going to happen is that people are not going to actually have a skill that is deep enough to be able to contribute towards their company. Why? Because the skills are going to be segmented. The skills are not going to be necessarily helpful, right? So for example, in Excel, you're not necessarily going to have like advanced visual basics skills. All you have is just sum and count. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have higher performance of workers. What is going to happen is that you're going to have higher volumes of workers that you know are going to leave your company, right? But then they said that under our side of the house, extension, we need to really explain why the stigma happens, right? Because stigma happens for a reason. Job hopping is because the stigma happens when you realize that employers actually need you as well, right? Because they need the people to help their company to be able to contribute and to be able to develop, right? So when you're put into a work, when you're put into a team, of course you're going to have to be expected to help that team, right? But when you job hop, what is going to happen is that team cannot work because the burden that is put onto you, you're just going to neglect it, you're just going to resign, and the company need to have to find another people uh like do the job that is going to be expected to you in the first place, right? What is going to happen is that people are going to be the employers are going to be very are because they're going to have to find another people, and then they have to train that person as well to be able to adapt again and again and again. So this is very time consuming, but also very resourceful towards the company as well, right? So this is exactly why the stigma happens. Why? So that the company can also can also contribute as well, so that they are able to pay you in the first place. Because if the company doesn't are not able to develop, they're not going to be able to pay you. So in affirmative side of the house, it's just going to be a zero-sum game where not only the company cannot pay you, you also cannot actually feed your family, right? But then second extension is that I'm going to explain why then the career and development is going to be better under our side of the house. First, because you already have the stigma, and that what is going to happen is that you're going to internalize it towards your own self by when you're choosing company, when you're choosing to work, what is going to happen is that you're going to think it through, right? Especially when they said about passion and you cannot really realize it easily. But when you have this stigma, it's going to happen a lot more easily. Why? Because you're going to keep thinking about it. Because it's just so easy for them to change their job, right? Because there's not really a corrective mechanism that's going to happen under there. But because exactly under our surrounded house stigma exists, you're going to think more about the passion, therefore developing your own understanding about your own passion, right? Therefore, development of passion exists under our surrounded house. But what about careers then? We are right. Notice that job hopping means that you're hopping into many different companies. It's not necessarily mean that you cannot change job, but exactly because you're stigmatized, you're going to stay in your company and you're going to build a good portfolio such that your careers are going to be much more developed, right? That is why we're so proud to oppose this motion, and that is why the stigma needs to exist in the status quo. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the fine speech coming from second negative. To continue this debate, I welcome third affirmative.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Oh, wait, I want to set up my timer first. Uh, hmm, okay. Oh, wait. Debate styles and Australis. Okay. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. What we want in affirmative is to how people find their best job that is suitable for them, and also the employer got the best employee for their job itself. So the how this stigmatization works is how it is hinder people to find the best job in the negative side of the house. But before I enter my classes, I want to do some clarification and also some rebuttals. First, some clarification. First, when they said when they will change within month, it is very extreme cases when they said this job hopping, when there's no stigmatization, they will change so often, because it's very not likely. 3 levels of analysis. A, it is very not likely because job is already scarce in status quo. Job hopping itself is not easy anyway, so they are not gonna like change within month. It is they are change when they have the opportunity itself. But what better in our side, at least they doesn't have the stigmatization and push or under pressure before them. Secondly, is how in industry the background of your career is very important. Like HR, like the HR will see or look into your CV, like how even change within month you will been asked to. So what they want to have a strong reason when they would gonna change the job hopping, because like their environment is so bad, so you are wanted to go or you are want to change your job. And thirdly, how this would not go, because in the professional industry, the contract of work is exists, so you will not that easily like run from your job. If you are really want to run from your job, I believe you are gonna get penalized. So in the end, there's a contract of work that is going to be fair between the employee and employer. Second clarification is how they said this is going to have a risk of job hopping, there will be starve or etc. I believe it is not the case of our side, because the job hopping is not that extreme. How portrayal of job hopping it happen in status quo is you are already have the work, you are already work in that era, so you are searched for better while you already work. So you are not going to starve, you are going to get salary, but you are search for better place to have a job, right? Like you applying while you have a job, so there's no risk of job hopping itself. So enter my rebuttal first. I want to say why negative loss in this debate is because how they only took the best secondary of their argument. How like their pre-requirement of their argument is how people already took or choose the best job or place to job it is very not important, very not significant, because if they not choose the best job, because there's many people who are search for the best job. Like for example, I'm from business, I want to have in the big four like KPMG, EY, then etc. It is very high competition. People need fresh graduate would not have the resource or capital to go in there. You are need for some experience first, right? So in the end, how opposition do it, people will only there's stagnation of employee in their side, like, so there's no career improvement in their side. So the rebuttal is when they are said, oh, there's the toxic environment will be better because you people will not be you will not be united. I believe people will be united in our side because they will adapting anyway. We are a societal entity, so people will always gonna be adapting with their environment. So we will believe the environment will not be go toxic or chaos like our negative side. Or secondly, this segmentation or will not be unified is, I believe, very symmetrical. Their high management will have their own circle and peer, and management have their own management. So I believe there's no toxic environment in our side of the house. So enter my first classes. Which team can prove the stigmatization of job hopping is justified? Two questions is which team has proved job hopping have no harm, and secondly, this if job hopping actually beneficial for many actors. First question is how job hopping is not making any harm. Negative may be worrying about how on our side there's like no loyalty of the employee in our side. I believe it is not so important of you have to have loyalty in modern society, because now everything is about performance anyway. People are individualistic anyway. Unlike before, like the workplace is framed like family. It has happened like in 19th, I don't know. Like now, when you are done with your work, when you are good in your performance, then it's okay. People who stay in the same job for a long time tend to have like a boredom itself, like or boredom on their works, like so they have tends to have like less innovation or even underperform on their work. Secondly, like if you are staying on the same place to work more than like 10 years, it is more probable to you have like seniority culture. It happens because there is this stigmatization that happens in negative of side of the house. They would likely to stay for the long time, like 10 years and so on. Are like this like 10 years employee have already circled, so the new employee like get outsided, like and whatnot. Why it is so bad to have like seniority culture? It will limit the innovation within your place or your business, because the new employer won't say what they felt or what they could improve. They just following their seniority. Thirdly, because how seniority will be bad, because it is a bad sense of security. It means that you are felt okay to be underperformance, like you are civil servant. Oh, they will not fire me anyways when I do my job or do not their job. They do not care, and etc. Because you are doing so much, like your loyalty is getting value so much, so you are not getting laid off or getting fired. Like so anyway, even if they do their job, they will only be bare minimum. Not like our side of the house, how new employers will become more greater in their perform because they want to show up their skill, etc. Would this force what this narrative will become? What would this mechanism would force employee to work hard? No, because there's exists like WLB narrative. So at least in our side of the house, we have the mechanism to to make this a counter narrative. What is the difference if we allowing people to stay on their job after they have after their job happening, they are allowed? What is the difference between action and will be a normative? So there's many turnover in many business. It means culture is more welcoming for new people. It's very small chance for seniority, so we are better. So and even if so, that loyalty is that important. I believe it is trade-off of our benefit. But notice, panel, there's a harm in negative side of the house too, because if stigmatization is justified, stigma make people scared to change job. First, and they said they are looked down by society or fellow employee. But knowing there's stigmatization, if you are employing in new places, you will get reduced by the HR, so they will stay. This is more probable to get exploitation. It is happened in Japan. What happened in negative is people only enter job once, and after they graduate, it is very bad because you don't know what do you want if after you graduate. You are new in this industry, right? So it is happen. It is why negative loss. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the fine speech coming from third F. To continue this debate, I welcome third negative.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, if at any point I become inaudible, please just do speak up and just tell me that my mic is being wrong. Right. So I'd like to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. The government side wants to babies little kids and wish that they will find passion by hopping from one point to another infinitely. Well, this is why that on their side of the house, that such thing as passion, career development, and even the most important thing that you go into a job for, which is money, is not going to be handed over to you. First things first, I'd like to point out a few rebuttals from the government side of the house. Is that firstly, they claim that they want to find passion and how passion will be more explored in their side of the house. Well, and that we are being unreasonable because we are expecting them to find their passion in one shot. Well, first, we'd like to clarify that we did not say that you're going to find your passion in one shot. However, what will happen is you will be putting more thought into the job that you're going to be dipping your toes into first, and you'll be more critical and not just blindly going into it. You're going to consider what is good, what's the pros, what's the cons. You're going to be thinking about what can actually happen and not just focus on the good things, and realize that if something is, and that you're actually ready for all the things that comes with having a job, having a job in this field. And then secondly, you're not going to be restricted and in fear of quitting your job if it is actually toxic, because firstly, it's already been explained by my second speaker, is that have multiple people, find people who has the same problem. You can actually build a community instead of just being individualistic, leaving your job when your contract hasn't ended yet. And we'd also like to bring that we do not want people to quit before their contract ends. We actually want people to finish what they did first, finish their obligations, and then if they want to quit, they can quit. And that is not job hopping. That is what we are striving, and this is what we are advocating for. And thirdly, the government side claims that we are going to be stagnant because we are going to be stuck in a job. We are going to be bored in this same 9 to 5 every day. First, we'd like you to understand that you are not living in this world just for pure fun. You're being egoistic by not considering every mouth that you have to feed, be it yourself, be it your family. You have other things that you have to consider other than just pure fun in a job. And secondly, their claims about our side of the house being more stagnant, it will actually apply to their side, because when you're applying for a new job, you're infinitely going to be applying for a rookie job. You're going to be infinitely be applying for a junior side. You're going to be paid a junior wage, and thus is how our side of the house will be having more developments, which I'll be explaining later in my arguments. But in their side of the house, stagnance is actually going to be more prevalent, because essentially you're going to be paid for not what you have, all your experiences that you have, but what you're doing in your current job right now, which is internship, like entry level jobs. And I'd like to get into what essentially the arguments of what we have said. Firstly, I'd also like to explain that 3 actors in this whole debate is firstly the employee, the fresh graduates, that are job hopping essentially. Secondly, the employers, and thirdly, the companies that are going to be hiring you in the first place. Firstly, I'd like to get into the arguments that we have first been advocating for is that first, in our side of the house, we are going to be having more resilient workers. We're going to be having more resilient fresh graduates and not quitters mentality. We are going to be having people who, fresh graduates who actually think carefully before diving into the jobs that they want to do. And we'll thus be having less regrets and less chance of people actually job hopping in the first place. And this is why in our side of the house, they will be more constant, not because they're restricted, not because they're in fear of not being hired, but because they are going to be, they're in this because they know what's in this already. And so we'll be having, in the long term, we will be having the upper hand. And secondly, we'll also be having employee thing as not have quitting as their first thought or on top of their minds because there's no stigma against that. This is why the stigma of job hopping is very important, because we want these employees to realize that if this hurdle is actually just is it really a toxic environment, or is it just a learning curve? Is it just a genuine challenge that comes with having a job, a mental a mental challenge, or like just a physical challenge that actually comes with having a job, and that is what you're being paid for, and not quitting immediately as your first thought. By not having a stigma, you're essentially going to be supporting the idea of job hopping that is acceptable for everyone, and this will have a bad look. How? This will show to your next employers that you're going to be an unstable variable. You're going to be showing that you have a limited amount of commitment, and that one hard thing will lead you to want to quit immediately, and that they have to baby you to keep you around. Firstly, this is going to be very costly for the internal HRD work, that they need to have time to interview. They need to have a lot of time to interview every new waves of employees coming in. They need to have a lot of resources. Money is going to be going into HRD instead of actual money being paid for their salaries of their employees. And this will also instill in employees, this is going to show in your portfolio that you are not a trusted, committed employee. You're going to be short-lived. You're not going to be a good investment too. Thus, first, it's going to be cutting your chances of being hired. And secondly, if you're going to be hired, how will they trust you to have a higher position? You're going to be stuck in an entry-level job again, as we have said. And nextly, we'd also like, okay, let's take into their worst case scenario that, oh, what about the people who are in their worst, who are stuck in a toxic environment? We are going to play in their worst case scenario. Well, firstly, just quit. We are not supporting job hopping. We're not supporting, we are not restricting you from quitting. We do not support job hopping. We need to underline that, because essentially there's not going to be any harm if you do quit in our side of the house, because with the stigma of this job hopping being so prevalent, your next employer are going to consider and really not want to have a job hopper as their next employee. They're going to be asking about it. They're going to be asking your background. They're going to really check your background, your portfolio, why you quit. And essentially, as long as you didn't actually quit because of your job hopping, you're good to go. You're going to be hired for your skills, of course, as long as you have the skills, which you will not have because you have been stuck in a rookie entry-level job all this time. You're being horizontal and not vertical. And also talking about the competitiveness in the current status quo that the government itself has also addressed, that currently the competitiveness is really, really high. Who's to say that they're going to be hiring people who have an infinite number of rookie-level jobs instead of actually one person who is a master in maybe perhaps having people who can test out passion? They're going to be having a way longer time finding their own passion, because one, they will not have put much thought into it. But in our side of the house, we will have employees who found their passion because they put much thought into it. Second, people who will be getting paid better because they actually deepen their skill level and are not stuck in an entry level. And thirdly, we'll have better career, where our career development will actually happen more in our house. We have more passion you guys, the government needs to understand that passion is something that you do despite the difficulties, and not just something sweet and always so fun to do all the time. And that is why we won this debate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the fine speech coming from third negative. To conclude the entire case coming from negative, I welcome negative reply.
Sorry, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Wait, gonna start my reply speech in 3, 2, 1. What have we contributed in this motion, in this debate? But then how do we engage with the affirmative side of the house and why negative win this debate, right? So first of all, what do we contribute in this debate? We say to you that there are several things that as an employee, you need to be really, really consider, right? That is first, because of this stigma that is existing in this side of in this debate, what is going to happen is that you're really going to be considering that job that you're applying to in the first place. This looks like you wanting to go into your passion, right? So what is going to happen due to the stigma is that you're going to try to research that job rigorously. Is that job really that in line with your passion in the first place? But then also this looks like about and this is also apply to salary, right? As my first speaker already mentioned, uh if because of this stigma that is existing, of course you're going to really consider, is the salary that is given to this company really, really that great, is able to like uh provide for my family and stuff, right? So consider considerment is going to be much more happening under negative side of the house. But then secondly, we can also contribute to you why then the stigma exists in the first place, right? The stigma happens for a reason. That is to say, the employers actually really, really, really have a huge loss whenever people do job hopping, because it is time consuming, but also it takes a lot of resources pay. So your pay is going to be cut just because a lot of people going to be job hopping, as my third speaker already mentioned. But this looks like you having a better career and development, right? This is what we have contributed to you. We say that because you stay and finish your obligation in that job, you're going to have a better CVs. You're going to be regarded highly by other employers, having a having a higher level job and not stuck infinitely into a junior or entry level job, as my third speaker and second speaker already mentioned. But how do we engage them, right? Basically, they really, really wanted to prove that because the stigma doesn't exist, it is going to make people much more fulfilled within their job life, right? That is to say, they're going to be amused, they're going to feed into their competitive nature and stuff like that, right? So, but actually, in negative side of the house, we flip this by saying that in my second second speech, by saying that of course you're not going to wait, uh by saying that it is not easy to do that in the first place because the job market is already scarce in the first place. We need to consider that uh people are applying to jobs because they have a need, because they want to feed their family, they want to make their children go to school and then be able to live their own life, and etc. So for affirmative side of the house, to support people doing job hopping is to support people to neglect what is their obligation in the first place. Therefore, we are so proud to oppose this motion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the fine speech coming from negative reply. To conclude the entirety of this debate, I welcome affirmative reply.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, give me 1 second to reset the timer. Okay, I will begin my reply in 3, 2, 1. As the affirmative, our job is to explain why there shouldn't be a stigma towards job hopping. Negative assumes that we want everyone to do job hopping from our arguments. I feel like their understanding of our arguments and our cases from the beginning is completely off. They talk about how we should learn to adapt to the work environments, but if you adapt to a toxic work environment, aren't you going to eventually let that toxic culture continue? Negative completely misunderstood our point. We want to get rid of the existing stigma. Why are you framing it as if we're telling explain vigorously why the lack of the stigma of job hopping is needed in the status quo because of all the bad toxic work environment. Okay, the panels, 4 metrics in which you should judge this debate. Which side is better? Which side gives betterment for the employer? Which side gives benefit for the company? Which side would boost the overall industry? And which side shelters the vulnerable actors of which are workers with mental vulnerability? Okay, what have the negative brought to this debate? First of all, they're bringing many inexclusive arguments that actually still exist and work on our side of this debate. They say that people shouldn't be doing it because the job market is scarce, they still need money to live, and it's hard if you job hop. If we're talking about people who choose to stay in their job, then it's okay. We just don't want people to job hop to be demonized because they are experiencing hostile work environments. Oh, and then also said like passion will be considered if you're in line with the passion could be considered anyways on their side, like, but we already, that is in line with our argument because my first speaker already explained like you'll be searching because like you search for passion if you're not satisfied with your job, and you are inconsistent because one said passion matters and the other doesn't, and then they villainize the job hopping workers and only play on our worst case. They say that these people have weak mentalities and have bad performance. They're not even playing on their worst case, in which people cannot escape from these work environments because that is actually toxic to them, like bad pay, inhuman workload, harassment from seniors, etc., who stay because of the existence of the stigma. Okay, the whip says that we can just quit, but do you realize how the stigma trickles down to even just quitting in general? Like, you can assume that like if you leave the first time, you can be labeled as a job hopping by employees because like, oh, if they leave now, they can leave again, and it's late matter anyways. And we already brought this issue up from the first speaker. And then they keep saying about like how it's going to, the negative breaks their whole argument because like they see our side will just eventually leave before our contract ends. Meanwhile, on their side, it won't happen. And people can leave once the contract ends. We never said that, and isn't that what you basically, that's basically our case, so you're basically agreeing with us. Okay, so what have we brought into this debate? We have shown you all preemptives and shown all point of views in this case. We want to give opportunities to the vulnerable actors who are workers to find a job that makes them feel safe and that they can enjoy. You're working for a 9 to 5 for at least 5 days a week and fighting through traffic or the high volume of people during rush hours in the trade. At the least you should have is a safety net where you can pursue a comfortable and safe work environment. Second of all, we showed you how this won't harm the employers anyways, even while we are helping boost these companies, because when you don't stigmatize people who job hop, you filter out people who don't enjoy their job, and you can gather passionate employees who are not only good at their job but also passionate. Even more, we have a domino effect that can help get rid of toxic work environments, because if so many leave the company, then the company can be questioned, like finishing, and like they said something about like finishing obligation in a better job. Like, we advocate for job hopping to not be stigmatized and not to encourage people to abandon their task. Okay, like, and then opposition said stuff like about being stagnant, about jobs being stagnant. You already have previous experience. My first speaker literally said that, literally said job hopping done by young people, they can build their career and when they settled in a good company. Like toxic environment, my third speaker already said that unions still exist under our side, because literally not everyone is going to opt in or opt out, even if about loyalty. Exactly, because every company bound performance worth more than loyalty, because performance gives you productivity and result in more profit, as the second speaker explained. And then like they didn't elaborate on issues around passion. They just like asserted about the issues of passion, but they don't explain it compared to our side. And then they say about money, like the money is going to be better and more competitive on our side, because yeah, you're working in a job that you enjoy. And about trust, we exactly be happen because of the stigma. If the stigma doesn't exist, then there won't be any issues about people not trusting you as a worker who job hops. Okay, proud to oppose.
Okay, thank you very much for the fine speech coming from the affirmative reply that goes out in charge of the debate. Thank you very much for the wonderful round. And yeah, I would like to invite the speakers to leave the room immediately, so that the deliberation process can begin in due time.